welcome to our daily reading. We are in Second Chronicles chapter 26 through 30, and I will probably also be continuing because I think there's only 36 chapters in Second Chronicles, and we will finish up before I begin today's task. God bless you, and I pray that you will seek the Lord more and more each day, always remembering that we are the daily sacrifice, coming before the Lord first before you get started with your day, if you are able uh, to do so. I remember getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes and being able to read about 30 minutes before I would begin, because I had an hour drive into work. And it on the mornings that I felt like I was running late, I listened to devotions all the way to work. That was an hour, or Bible reading. So we are the generation without excuse. Chapter 26 of Second Chronicles. And all the people of Judah took Uzziah, and he was 16 years old, and made him king instead of his father Amaziah. He built Loth and restored it to Judah after the king lay with his fathers. Uzziah was a son of 16 years when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem, and the name of his mother was Zecholiah of Jerusalem. And he did right in the eyes of Jehovah according to all that his father Amaziah did. And he sought God in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding in the visions of God, and in the days he sought Jehovah. God, he made him prosper. And he went out and fought with the Philistines and broke down the wall of Gath, and the wall of Jebnah, and the wall of Ashdod, and built cities around Ashdod and among the Philistines. And God helped him against the Philistines and against the Arabians who lived in Gerbaal, and the Munites. And the Ammonites paid tribute to Uzziah, and his name spread abroad to the entrance of Egypt. For he became exceedingly strong, and Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate, and at the valley gate, and at the turning, and fortified them. And he built towers in the wilderness and dug many wells, for he had many cattle, both in the low country and in the plain, farmers and vine dressers in the mountains, and in Carmel, for he was a lover of the earth. And Uzziah had an army making war, going out to the battle by troops, according to the number of their account, by the hand of Jeuel the scribe, and Maaseiah the officer, under the hand of Hanani, of the king's leaders. The whole number of the heads of the fathers of the mighty men was 2,600, and under their hand was a powerful army, 307,500, that made war with mighty power to help the king against the enemy. And Uzziah prepared for them for all the army shields and spears and helmets and breastplates and bows, even to stones for the slings. And he made engines in Jerusalem, the inventions of skillful men, to be on the towers and on the corners, with which to shoot arrows and great stones. And his name spread far abroad, for he was wonderfully helped until he was strong. And when he became strong, his heart was lifted up to act corruptly, and he trespassed against Jehovah his God, and went into the temple of Jehovah to burn incense on the altar of incense. And Azariah the priest went in after him, and 80 priests of Jehovah with him, sons of valor, and they stood up against Uzziah the king, and said to him, It is not for you, O Uzziah, to burn incense to Jehovah, but to the priest, the sons of Aaron, who are sanctified to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for you have trespassed, and it is not to your honor from Jehovah God. And Uzziah was angry, and in his hand was a censer to burn incense. And when he was angry with the priest, the leprosy rose in his forehead, before the priest in the house of Jehovah beside the altar of incense. And Azariah, the head priest of all the priests, turned toward him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead. And they hurried him from there, and he also himself hurried to leave, for Jehovah had touched him. And Uzziah the king was a leper to the days of his death, and lived in a separate house as a leper, for he had been cut off from the house of Jehovah. And his son Jotham was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. And the rest of the acts of Uzziah, the first and the last, Isaiah the son of Amoz the prophet has written. And Uzziah lay with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the field of the burying place that the king had. For they said, he is a leper, and his son Jotham reigned in his place. Chapter 27 of 2 Chronicles. Jotham was a son of 25 years when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and his name of his mother was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. And he did right in the eyes of Jehovah according to all that his father Uzziah did, only he did not come into the temple of Jehovah, and the people continued to do wickedly. He built the upper gate of the house of Jehovah, and he built very much in the wall of Ophel. And he built cities in the hills of Judah, and in the forest he built palaces and towers. He also fought with the king of the sons of Ammon, and prevailed over them. And the sons of Ammon gave to him in that year 100 talents of silver, and 10,000 cores of wheat, and 10,000 of barley. This the sons of Ammon turned over to him both in the second year and in the third. And Jotham made himself strong, for he had prepared his ways before Jehovah his God. And the rest of the acts of Jotham, and all his battles and his ways, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. He was a son of 25 years when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And Jotham lay with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and his son Ahaz reigned in his place. Chapter 28 of 2 Chronicles. Ahaz was a son of 20 years when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and he did not do right in the eyes of Jehovah and his father David, but walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, and also made molten images for the Baals. And he himself burned incense in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and burned his sons in the fire according to the abominations of the nations that Jehovah drove out from before the sons of Israel, and sacrificed and burned incense in the high places, and on the heights, and under every green tree. And Jehovah his God gave him into the hand of King Syria, and they struck him and captured from him a great captivity, and brought them to Damascus. And he also was given into the hand of the king of Israel, and he struck him with a great destruction. And Pekah, the son of Ramaliah, killed 120,000 in Judah in one day, all sons of valor, because they had forsaken Jehovah, the God of their fathers. And Zikri, a mighty one of Ephraim, killed Messiah, the son of the king, and Azrikam, the leader of the house, and Elkanah, son of the king. And the sons of Israel captured 200,000 of their brothers, wives, sons, and daughters, and also they seized from them much spoil. And they brought the spoil to Samaria. And a prophet of Jehovah was there, Oded his name, and he went out before the army that had come into Samaria, and said to them, Behold, in the fury of Jehovah, the God of your fathers, against Judah, he has given them into your hand, and you have slain among them in rage. It has reached to the heavens, and now you are planning to tread down the sons of Judah and Jerusalem for male slaves and for girl slaves to yourselves, but are not with you causes of guilt, solely yours, before Jehovah your God. And now hear me and return the captives you have seized from your brothers, for the heat of the anger of Jehovah is on you. And certain of the leaders of the Ephraimites, Azariah the son of Johanan, Barkiah or Berechiah, Meshillemoth's son, and Jehizekiah, the son of Shallum, and Amasa, the son of Hadlaiah, rose up against those coming in from the army, and said to them, You shall not bring the captives here, for guilt against Jehovah is on us. You are planning to add to our sin and to our guilt, for we have plenty of guilt, and the glow of anger on Israel. And the armed men left the captives and the spoil before the leaders and all the congregation. And the men who had been called by name rose and took the captives, and they clothed all the naked ones from the spoil. Yea, they clothed them and shod them and made them eat and drink, and anointed them and led them out on asses, even every feeble one, and brought them to Jericho, the city of palms, near their brothers, and returned to Samaria. At that time King Ahaz sent to the king of Assyria to help him. And again the Edomites had come and struck Judah, and had seized a captivity. And the Philistines had raided against the cities of the low country and of the south of Judah, and captured Beth Shemesh and Ajalon, and Gederoth, and Socoh, and its daughter villages, and Timnah and its daughter villages. He loosed immorality in Judah, and dealt treacherously against Jehovah. And Tiglath taken a lot from the house of Jehovah and from the house, and had given to the king of Assyria. Yet it was no help to him, and in the time of his distress he acted treacherously against Jehovah, this king Ahaz. And he sacrificed to the gods of Damascus, who had struck him, and said, Because the gods of the kings of Syria are helping them, I will sacrifice to them, that they may help me. But they were to cause him and all Israel to stumble. And Ahaz gathered all the utensils of the house of God, and he cut up the utensils of God, and shut the doors of the house of Jehovah. And he made altars for himself in every corner of Jerusalem, and in every city, even the cities of Judah. He made high places to burn incense to others. And the rest of his acts and all his, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Ahaz lay with his fathers, and they buried him in the city in Jerusalem, but did not bring him to the graves of the kings of Israel. And his son Hezekiah reigned in his place. Chapter 29 of 2 Chronicles. Hezekiah was a son of 25 years when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Abijah, the daughter of Zechariah, and he did the right in the eyes of Jehovah. Father David did. In the first year of his reign, in the first month, he opened the doors of the house of Jehovah and repaired them. And he brought in the priests and Levites, and he gathered them to the plaza on the east. And he said to them, Hear me, O Levites, now consecrate yourselves, and consecrate the house of Jehovah, the God of your fathers, and bring out the uncleanness from the holy place. For our fathers have acted treacherously and did the evil in the eyes of Jehovah our God. And they have forsaken him and turned their faces away from the temple of Jehovah, and have given their backs. And they have shut the doors of the porch and put out the lamps. And they have not burned incense and have not offered burnt offering in the holy place to the God of Israel. And the wrath of Jehovah is on Judah and Jerusalem. And he hath given them for a trembling, for a horror, and for hissing. And you see with your eyes, for behold, our fathers have fallen by the sword, and our sons and our daughters and our wives are in exile for this. Now it is in my heart to cut a covenant with Jehovah, the God of Israel, and the glow of his anger shall turn back from us. Now, my sons, do not be negligent, for Jehovah has chosen you to stand before his face, to serve him, and to be ministers and incense burners for him. And the Levites arose, Mahath the son of Amasai, and Joel the son of Azariah, of the sons of the Kohathites, and the sons of Merari, Kish the son of Abdi, and Azariah the son of Jehielel, And of the Gershonites, Joah the son of Zimmah, and Eden the son of Joah. And of the sons of Elizaphan, Shimri, and Jeiel. And of the sons of Asaph, Zechariah, and Mattaniah. And of the sons of Haman, Jehiel, and Shimei. And of the sons of Jeduthun, Shemaiah, and Uziel. And they gathered their brothers and sanctified themselves and came in, according to the commandment of the king in the matters of Jehovah, to cleanse the house of Jehovah. And the priest went into the inner part of the house of Jehovah to clean, and brought out all the uncleanness that they found in the temple of Jehovah to the court of the house of Jehovah. And the Levites received and took it out to the brook Kidron outside. And they began to sanctify on the first of the first month. And on the 8th day of the month they came to the porch of Jehovah. And they sanctified the house of Jehovah in 8 days. And on the 16th day of the first month they had finished. And they came inside to Hezekiah the king, and said, We have cleansed all the house of Jehovah, and the altar of the burnt offering, and all its vessels, and the table of the bread of arrangement, and all its utensils, and all the utensils that King Ahaz cast aside in his reign, in his treachery. We behold, they are before the altar. The king rose early and gathered the heads of the city, and went up to the house of Jehovah. And they brought in 7 bullocks, and 7 rams, and 7 lambs, and 7 young he goats for a sin offering for the kingdom, and for the whole, and for the sons of Aaron the priest to offer on the altar of Jehovah. And they killed the oxen, and the priest received the blood, and sprinkled on the altar, and they killed the on the altar. And they killed the lamb, sprinkled the blood on the altar. And they brought the he goats of the sin offering before the king and the congregation. And they laid their hands on them, and the priest slaughtered them, and made a sin offering with their blood on the altar, to make atonement for all Israel. For the king said, The burnt offering and the sin offering are for all Israel. And he made stand the Levites in the house of Jehovah with cymbals, with harps, and with lyres, by the commandment of David and of Gad. And at the time, the burnt offering began. The song of Jehovah began, and of the trumpets, even by the hand of the instruments of David, the king of Israel. And all the congregation were bowing, and the singers singing, and the trumpeters blowing. Completion of the offering, the king and all those found with him bowed and worshipped. And Hezekiah the king and the leaders commanded the Levites to give praise to Jehovah in the words of David and of Asaph the seer. And they praised with joy, and they bowed and worshipped. And Hezekiah answered and said, Now you have consecrated your hand to Jehovah. Come near and bring sacrifices and thank offerings to the house of Jehovah. And the congregation brought in